Kansas City at Green Bay. Now, Kansas City hasn't been the high-flying offense that we thought, but last week, Rashee Rice, it feels like they're finally starting to work out how to use him. They're not trying to pigeonhole him and say, go and be a traditional wide receiver. They're saying, let's use you on screens. Let's get the ball in your hands and allow you to be essentially a running back in the open field, should we say. Average depth of target of 4 last week. Do you think that we can buy into Rashee Rice getting more workload and becoming an even bigger part of this offense as we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of stuff, it's worth remembering that like Tyreek Hill in his early days with Kansas City, like they were doing jet sweeps and pop passes to him constantly because they wanted to make use of what works for him and his abilities as a speedster and all that. So seeing Rashee Rice being used in ways that get the ball in his hands quickly is completely fine by me. He doubled his previous career high of 4 touches to 8, had his first 100-plus yard game. And it just seems very clear now that we're going to see Rashee Rice is the clear choice behind Travis Kelce. Sky Moore's still going to be involved. Sky Moore's actually catching the ball now, which is quite an achievement for him given the last couple of years. Marcus Valdes-Scantling is just out there getting his cardio in, doing run blocking, and, he'll get 1-2 targets a game that, if they come good, could turn into fantasy points, but we're well beyond the point where he's even a better in best ball pick now. Mahomes, though, it was kind of reassuring to see him get back inside the top 10 quarterbacks for the first time since week 7, because you draft Mahomes at such a high cost, or you pay up for him such a high cost in Dynasty, that you really need him to be performing like that at this point in the year. We saw last week, we talked about Isaiah Pacheco being in a really good matchup against the Raiders, finishes the RB4 overall, but he's still very touchdown reliant. He's only got 1 top 22 finish when he's not scoring touchdowns. But this week, I don't think we need to worry about that because the Packers allow the 11th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. And on the other side of this, Christian Watson, we've seen a concerted effort to make sure that he's got going over the last 2 weeks. They've got him via touchdown 2 weeks ago, and then last week, straight from the first drive, it was shots to Christian Watson, and it worked out. And for a player like him, confidence seems like it's going to be massive. He's had 8 catches for 116 yards, 2 touchdowns the last 2 games. I think you can start him if you need to. Jordan Love is back in kind of every week consideration after, 2 top 10 quarterback performances in back-to-back weeks. Underdog Fantasy did a great episode this week looking at his abilities and how he's actually improving as a player over the last few weeks, and it's well worth checking out. Even though Kansas City are strong against the pass, I feel like I've got enough confidence in the Packers this week to roll out Jordan Love. AJ Dillon, I mean, we talk about every week. He's not a good running back. 3.1 yards per carry. Maybe he does better here against the Chiefs team, who are stronger against the pass than they are against the run, but I don't know. I just feel like at this point, you can find someone better to start than AJ Dillon.
Yeah, absolutely. On the Jordan Love point, it feels like his value this year has been a complete roller coaster. We had a phenomenal start where he was outperforming massively in the touchdown world. He had unsustainable touchdown rates, and everyone was calling him, the next great superstar at the quarterback position for fantasy. He then regressed, had a few disappointing weeks, and his value plummeted. People were, saying he wasn't going to be the starting quarterback next year. And now all of a sudden everybody's back in and calling him a superstar and a top 12 option. So I think that the type of player he is, the areas of the field he's attacking, he's got, I think it's the second highest ADOT of any starting quarterback at the moment, behind only Will Levis. And Will Levis' passing tree is just not normal, quite frankly. He's pushing the ball downfield, which is fantastic. But that, by the very nature, he's going to be more boom bust because those passes are completed at a lower percentage. So, if he has a good week and he completes 3 or 4 of them, it turns into a really good fantasy week. If they don't get completed, it becomes a bad one. So I think that we almost need to accept Jordan Love he is a good enough quarterback to be starting in the NFL. given the fact that his cap number next year is criminally low because of restructuring his contract for this year, he's going to be the starting quarterback for Green Bay next year. I think that for fantasy, you almost need to say, if he's my QB1, I'm in trouble. If he's my QB2, and I can afford, I'm good enough to afford those good weeks along with the bad, he could be a really interesting option. If you're, if he's your QB3 and you can only play him when it's good matchups, then you're absolutely laughing. But I think that you just need to accept there is definitely going to be some roller coaster when it comes to Jordan Love and his fantasy production. If you're here, if you're watching, it doesn't even matter if you're not watching live. You can get those questions in the comments below. Tom and I will work all week. We will answer 100% of your questions that you get them in, whether it's start-sit questions, redraft trade, dynasty questions, or you just want to ask Tom what hat's he wearing today. Get them in the comments below and we'll answer 100% of those questions before Sunday.